Shut up and sit down.
So, hello and welcome. My name is Silently Loud, and I'm here today for one thing and one thing only, and that thing is a web light novel called Chrysalis. Now, I think it was a few months ago, well, actually, it's a bit longer than that, but I didn't have anything to read. I have read tons of manga, sci-fi books. Let's just say I read a lot. Okay, that is much easier to say. So I had nothing to read, and I had heard a lot about these web light novels. So I started reading them, and one of the first that sticked with me was this uh, novel called Chrysalis. And as I said, it's a web light novel. The author is Rhinos. Genre is fantasy adventure. And I must say that why haven't I started reading these kind of things before? The author of this is amazing. I love the way he writes this story that nowadays can be a bit generic. Well, let's not say generic, but you can find the same kind of stories a bit too easily, and the idea is good, but very often the writing is shite. But this is great. So, what is Chrysalis? Well, the Chrysalis tells the story of Anthony, and he gets reincarnated in the world of Pangera. I know it's a reincarnator story. I know there are thousands of them these days, but this is written beautifully. Believe me, just give it a try. Let's not judge yet, okay? So, how does this story begin? He dies, and we'll get to that for a bit in a moment. Wakes up in the dungeon all alone. He tries to survive. Eventually, starts looking for his colony. As I said, he is reincarnated as an ant, and first, of course, he panics, but eventually he realizes that no ant lives alone, so he starts searching for his colony. And when that happens, the story really picks up. It starts steamrolling like hell. It is amazing read. It's just, can you see how excited I am to talk about this? I really am. I just that there is so much that I would love to talk to you about, but I can't, because if I do, then I might spoil something, and I don't want to spoil this. Okay. Where was I? We were talking about Anthony. Yeah, Anthony is a funny character. We don't know a lot about his life on Earth, but what we do know is, wait, I have it up here. Yeah, Anthony, life on Earth. We don't know much about his life on Earth. Just a few depressing facts. His parents abandoned him one day, taking everything of value with them. Sometime before his 15th birthday, they left Anthony with a large debt to loan sharks. The loan sharks cut off his leg when he wouldn't pay back the money since he couldn't. He died when he was 15 from starvation. He fed all the food he did get to his pet ant farm. So his life on Earth was very depressing. Yeah, and the amazing thing about Anthony is that you really don't know about that when you start reading. He just have this very positive outlook on life, this unending positiveness, and he's curious as hell, and he quite fast forsakes his humanity and embraces the ant. So that is just it. It is very hard to describe, but it is just a great read. What else? I need to look at my notes. Okay, let's talk about the world of Pangera. So, Pangera is a dark and dangerous place. Everyone is competing for resources and places to live. Basically, we have different races and factions. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about why Pangera is dark and dangerous, and that is because of the dungeon, and that's the place where Anthony wakes up, and it is very dangerous place. But the place he wakes up is, let's just say, the least dangerous one. I'm going to explain. Let's go. I had it up here somewhere. Here. So the dungeon. What is the dungeon? The dungeon is the underground world of monsters below the world known as Pangera. So, the dungeon is a series of tunnels and caverns of physics-breaking size. There is two main components to the dungeon: expanses and tunnels. The expanses are huge open spaces which are filled with monster spawn points and are the target of large monsters and humans for the denser mana and valuable material mainly found in them. The tunnels connect the expanses to each other and act as veins for mana and monsters to go to between the expanses. The tunnels are a never-ending maze with constant. That must mean constant. The tunnels are a never-ending maze with constant twists and dead ends. Now, that is what the dungeon is, but that is not a very good explanation. But basically, the underground world on Pangera is the place where the most dangerous monsters, but also the most valuable resources, and everybody is competing for them. So, and one of the most interesting things, for me at least, is that the dungeon is how do you say it? Layered. Like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and so on and so forth. And as far as we know, there are 6 layers in the story, and Anthony's, I think he's now on the 3rd layer. But there could be more. And in the story, they are called strata, which I'm not entirely sure what strata translates to, but in the context of the story, they are basically talking about layers that are different every time. So let's go with that layer, I guess. So maybe I can give you one example what is an expanse in the dungeon. Now, this is one of the very first expanses. I think it's actually the first. The forest expanse, located under the kingdom of Lyria. It is small for a expanses, but since it is located relatively high in the dungeon, Lyria was built on top of it, named for the forest of trees that is in it. However, no plant type monsters have been found in it. This is the first expanse the Anthony found and explored. Yeah, now you get a small idea what is the dungeon below and why people want to go in there. And regarding World of Pangera, aside of monsters and all that kind of danger, there are other danger like different races, different factions. For example, we have the Empire of Stone, the Golgari. They are these stone people. I mean, it's a bit more than that, but read it, you'll figure it out. And then we have the Deep Legion, Legionem Abyssi. Now, a very short way to describe them is these underground paladins. They kind of try to keep order, and at the same time they are Anthony's worst enemy, I guess. At least for now. There might be some worse enemies, who knows. Then there are the Bruanki. That's a funny word. And we don't know much about them, and I don't want to get into them either. Read it. You'll figure it out. And of course we have humans, which the Deep Legion is mostly humans as far as I know. Then we have the Mercenary Union. Now we don't hear much about them either, and I don't think we meet them in the early story, but we hear about them, and eventually we do meet them, kinda, in a way. Yeah. So, what else? Ooh, there's one very tough selling point that I need to get into. And this falls once again under the generic stuff. At least nowadays, generic stuff. Everyone in Pangea has a system. Did you get that? Everyone in Pangea has a system. So it's a game-like thing. I know it's a hard sell, and sometimes it's impossibly tedious to read, but Chrysalis makes it easy, makes it good. It is fun to read. It is not this overly how do you say, well, let's just say it is very easy to read. And the system is based on stats, mutations, skills, and not everyone, of course, get everything, because the system is a bit of a funny thing. It kind of it reacts to what you do, who you are, and many other things. It is very flexible. But yeah, it is written in a way that it's easy for the story, and it is easy to read. I promise you that. I know it's a hard sell. It was hard sell for me too, but I love it. So what else? I've talked about Anthony. I've talked about a little bit about Pangea. I've talked about the dungeon. in the story there are these cool little tidbits of information that makes the world seem so much bigger. And I thought I would give you a few examples. Uh, yeah, this is chapter 2, coming to grips, and these are the cool little tidbits that I'm talking about here. Now, they don't have these in every chapter, but every time they do, they make the world seem so much bigger. These are just so cool things to have in the story. Oh, and one other thing before I begin this. The story isn't always from the perspective of Anthony. We have a great many other characters. We also have sometimes the fuck me in the ass. Sometimes the story is told from the perspective of the colony, and sometimes from the perspective of maybe an enemy or some other fella. Which, again, it seems like an easy thing to do, but in a light novels, in web light novels, you don't see that often, which is weird because it is such a great tool. Either way, let's begin. Chapter 2, Coming to Grips. The world before the system descent is mystery to us now. Any records of that time disappeared during the rending or were lost in the centuries since. How did those people judge each other, unable to view themselves with perfect numerical accuracy as we so easily can today? Was society a more equitable place when the worth of a human being can be weighed with such precision? Strict roles and structures are easy to maintain. Perhaps back then, when qualities of each individual were more nebulous, it allowed greater freedom, greater choice in a person's life. Many believe the system elevated us, empowered us to fight back against the great cataclysm. But many of the wise question this narrative. We know what we gained in the descent, but we can no longer recall what we lost. Excerpt from the page 15 of Ruminations on the Predescent Society by Ilarion the Heretic. These kind of things make the world seem so much bigger. And the descent is basically the event when the system came to be, and it happened, as this says, during the rending. Well, after the rending, and the rending was this great cataclysm, basically. The next one, this cool little tidbit, is from chapter 16, Currents and Undertows. The waves are a mystery to us, ever since the very first during the cataclysm that came to be known as the rending, when huge surges of monsters were spawned in the dungeon below and tore their way onto the surface in great numbers. We have failed to find the reason why waves of monsters suddenly flood the dungeon. Some of my predecessors have postulated that the dungeon uses the waves as a device to repopulate itself when monster numbers are too low and regular spawns are not sufficient to maintain a healthy population. Whatever that may be, there is evidence to suggest that lower monster numbers increases the likelihood of a wave. Yet there are records of waves occurring even when the dungeon is packed to bursting, though it is far more rare for this to happen, to be sure. From the private notes of Alberton, lawmaster of Legionem Abyssi, Lyria. these tidbits are cool and the writing is great. What can I say? I love this, and there is just so much that I would love to talk to you about this, but if I do, I spoil something and you'll never get it back. It is very hard for me to, rein myself in this subject. Yeah. But I want to still read you one more. And it is regarding Legion Abyssi, the Deep Legion. From chapter 44, something new. Here we go. The origins of the Deep Legion are thought lost to history. What is known is thought to have more basis in myth than in reality. Partially this is due to the lack of records that survived the Great Cataclysm, particularly here in the Tiberial Confederation. What is agreed is that at some point during that world-shattering event, where monsters from the deepest reaches of the dungeon roamed free on the surface, causing destruction everywhere they went, a group of individuals gathered to found the Deep Legion. The organization grew rapidly, recruiting from the populace, and was able to strike effectively and well against the monsters on the surface, as well as counter-attack into the dungeon. Nobody can explain why they were so successful where other human forces were not. To this day, some 3,000 years later, the Legion persists as independent military organization that regularly monitor and explore the dungeon. In some places they are still trusted with regulatory role, overseeing access to the dungeon in their customary strict fashion. On the origins of post-rending powers, Chapter 4, The Deep Legion, by Reselan the Scholar. Yeah, these kind of things in a web light novel. Yeah, this is just, to me personally, is amazing, and I hope you pick this up. Chrysalis is very underappreciated work. I have so much love for this story, and yeah, I can't recommend this enough. And on this day it has 868 chapters. Now, some of the chapters are a bit longer than the others, but still it is not an issue. The story goes on smoothly. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Hope you enjoyed the vid. Sorry for my stuttering. God damn it. Like and subscribe. Hopefully I'll get you something soon, something new soon. Maybe it is news, maybe it is recommendation for something to read, and if you can bet on something, I read a lot. Anyway, that's it for now. See you soon. Bye bye.
Shut up and sit down.